Before the Flood, the Fall of Atlantis. Interlude 1, the Covenant of the Runt. Deep within the Golden Palace, at the absolute center of Atlantis, in the Hall of 10 Thrones, the air hung thick with salt, incense, and the copper reek of fresh blood. Massive braziers fed by biomancy-infused oil roared with flames that shifted unnaturally between sapphire and blood red, casting writhing shadows across walls of polished marble veined with gold and crystal. A great circular table of black basalt, veined like living lightning, dominated the chamber. 10 thrones, each carved in the grotesque likeness of its occupant's dominant power, radiated outward from a raised central dais. Channels of crystal-clear water cut through the floor, glowing with aquamantic light and carrying the faint screams of distant sacrifices on hidden currents. The entire hall was a monument to rebellion, opulent, blasphemous, and already rotting from within. Poseidon, 14 feet of towering Nephilim fury, paced before the assembled kings, his 10 colossal sons. His skin rippled and flowed like the living sea, constantly shifting between liquid and solid. Dozens of floating crystal points, stolen through the forbidden cannibalistic ritual that consumed the flesh of his own kind, orbited his body like deadly stars. They hummed with latent power, sharp edges glinting, ready to form spears, shields, or instruments of exquisite torture at the slightest whim. Hataza's gift, taken in blood and secrecy, had cost him dearly. Faint cracks now spider-webbed across his own crystalline armor, a reminder that even the runt of the bloodline paid the price of the orders. The 10 sons stood before him, each a giant ruler in his own right, their bodies already bearing the visible scars of the covenants their father had forced upon them. Flesh warped, minds fracturing, spirits devoured by Ra'av's eternal hunger. They were the living proof of the Watcher's 3 mantras. Mind, body, and spirit would fail. Prince Thalorian, Poseidon's favorite and co-ruler of Ring 1, spoke first. His thick crustacean-like armor had fused permanently to his torso and shoulders, massive claws clicking restlessly against the basalt table. Watery power still rippled beneath the chitin, but the fusion had stolen his ability to remove it. "Father," he said, voice charismatic and shrewd, "we have grown tired of your caution. The outer rings grow restless. The bloodlines demand larger shares of the covenants, more daughters sent to the Watchers for fresh pacts, broader territories, and deeper access to the hidden dimensions. You hoard the purest secrets while we rule mere rings. Continue this stinginess, and the people will remember you as the weakling the Egyptian giants already mock." King Perikos of Ring 2 stepped forward next, skin permanently charred black at the edges, glowing faintly with inner fire and lightning. Sparks danced between his fingers as he spoke, his explosive temper barely contained. "The crowds cheer louder for my storms and flames than for your tame waves, old man. The arenas in my ring run red while yours grow quiet. Grant me command of the central spectacles, or I will burn Ring 2 to glass and claim greater dominion myself. Flesh fails, father, but mine still hungers for glory." King Azamon of Ring 3 followed, cold and intellectual, his pharmacia-enhanced mind clearly fracturing. Hallucinations flickered behind his eyes as he rubbed his temples. "My potions and poisons sustain the entire economy of Atlantis. Trade, medicine, control of the lesser bloodlines, all of it flows through my academies. Yet you limit my access to the purest virgin lines for new elixirs. Continue this miserly hoarding, and my contact poisons will find their way into your own wine, Runt. The mind fails, as the Order of Moch foretold. Yours will be the first." King Hyperion of Ring 4 loomed like a living statue, his body grown uncontrollably heavier, skin hardening into living stone armor that made every movement a labor. "I have become the brute you always needed to crush rebellion," he growled, arrogant and glory-seeking. "My size and strength hold the mid-rings in terror. Yet you deny me the greater invocations that could make me unstoppable. Refuse me, and I will shake the very foundations of your palace until it collapses upon you." King Vesperon of Ring 5 was pale and corpse-like, patches of his flesh decaying even as he stood there. He drained life from the air around him to sustain himself. "Immortality slips through my fingers while you hoard the deepest necromantic and biomantic rites," he hissed, voice eerie and obsessed. "My thralls grow restless. Give me more life to steal, or I will raise an army of the dead from your own fallen guards and claim Ring 5 as my eternal kingdom." King Krios of Ring 6 shifted uneasily, his form unstable even in rest, features melting and reforming like wax. The cunning deceiver smiled thinly. "My illusions and pharmacia keep the lesser bloodlines loyal through fear and false loyalty. Yet you bind my hands with your outdated decrees. Push me further, and I will wear your face, Father, and turn your own priests against you while you sleep." King Gorgathon of Ring 7 cracked his knuckles, bones already turning to brittle stone from his aeromancy and geomancy. Sand and wind swirled faintly around his feet. "My ring is the most brutal, filled with altering warriors who test their strength daily. You weaken us with your caution, deny my demands for greater elemental dominion, and I will open the earth beneath this very hall and swallow us all in one glorious earthquake." King Dracon of Ring 8 growled through a partially formed dragon snout, scales spreading across his throat, tail lashing. Greedy and hoarding, he had already claimed dozens of daughters for fresh covenants. "I hoard wealth, power, and bloodlines, as is my right. Your restrictions on new marriages to the Watchers starve my line. Refuse me, and my draconic fire will reduce your pleasure gardens to ash, while I claim every treasure within them." King Nixar of Ring 9 clutched at his head, paranoid and scheming, his pharmacia mind-altering potions having left him unable to trust his own thoughts. "I weave fear and false loyalty through every spectator and servant. Yet your paranoia limits my access to the deepest dimensional whispers. Continue, and I will drive the entire island mad with illusions until they tear you from this throne themselves." Finally, King Titanor of Ring 10, the outermost and most militarized, stepped forward, the most physically imposing of them all. Metal objects in the hall faintly tugged toward or away from him as his gigamancy made his body magnetically unstable. "I am your enforcer, Father. My gravity crushes descent before it can rise, but you starve my ring of the greatest blood tributes. Push me, and I will reverse the very pull of the earth beneath Atlantis, and let the sea claim what you refuse to share." The 10 giant suns fell silent, their combined presence pressing against the walls like an oncoming cataclysm. Their grievances hung in the air, demands for more power, more daughters for covenants, more territory, more proof that they, not their father, were the true inheritors of the Watcher's gifts. Threats of rebellion, of patricide, of turning their rings against the center. Flesh turning upon flesh, exactly as the Order of Guff had foretold. Poseidon stopped pacing. The floating crystal points around him flared brighter, humming with lethal intent. For a long moment the only sound was the soft gurgle of the aquamantic channels and the distant roar of arenas far below. Then the runt of the Nephilim kings, mocked by his Egyptian cousins across the Great Green, spoke, and his voice was the grinding of tectonic plates beneath the sea. "You dare threaten me in my own hall? Poseidon rumbled, the words carrying the weight of crashing waves and crushing depths. You who owe your very existence to the blood covenants I secured with the Watchers. You whose powers I have fed with rivers of sacrifice and daughters. You call me weak while your own bodies betray you, armor fusing to flesh, minds fracturing, breath poisoning itself, bones petrifying, scales spreading until speech fails. The Watchers were right. Mind fails, body fails, spirit fails. And now my own sons prove it. He rose to his full 14-foot height, the crystal points spinning faster. Water in the floor channels surged in sympathy with his rage. Very well. You wish to prove your superiority and claim what you believe is yours by right? Then hear my decree, and let it be binding as the mutual imprecations the 200 Watchers swore upon Mount Hermon. There will be a tournament of the rings. In every one of the 10 rings, 8 teams of 5 competitors will fight to the death. The survivors of each brutal bracket will earn the right to challenge you, my sons, for your thrones. The victors, or those of you strong enough to defend your rings, will become the new kings. But that is only the beginning. Following the Battle of the Rings will come the Tournament of Rulers. The 10 new or surviving kings will fight in this very palace for the ultimate prize, my throne as High King of Atlantis. The final champion shall sit beside me and rule as co-sovereign with full authority over every ring, every bloodline, every covenant. And so that none of you may escape the consequences of your arrogance or your weakness, I bind this kingdom's fate to your own exactly as the Watchers bound themselves in blood and mutual imprecations. The outcome of the second tournament shall decide the fate of Atlantis itself. If a worthy successor rises through blood and victory, the city stands eternal as a monument to our covenant. But if weakness or rebellion prevails, the entire island, every ring, every palace, every soul within it will share in the failure of its kings. The sea itself will claim what flesh could not hold. Let the blood flow. Let the weak be culled. Let the Watchers themselves witness whether the body truly fails, as they prophesied from the beginning. The 10 giant sons stared at their father in stunned silence. The weight of the new covenant settled upon them like chains of crystal and seawater, unbreakable as the one sworn on Hermon centuries earlier. Thalorian's claws clicked once in reluctant acknowledgement. Pyrakos' flames guttered. Azamon's fractured mind seemed for a moment to clear in the face of true doom. Poseidon smiled coldly, his aquamantic power rippling across his skin like a coming tide. The tournaments begin in 7 days. Prepare yourselves, my sons. Atlantis itself now hangs in the balance, tied to your fates as surely as any blood oath. Outside the Hall of 10 Thrones, far below in the outermost rings, the crowds already roared in anticipation of the coming slaughter. The cries of the innocent rose like sweet incense to the heavens. And somewhere in the hidden dimensions, the fallen Watchers stirred with dark amusement, sensing that the runt of their bloodline had finally learned the true cost of power. All flesh is grass. The grass withers. But the word of the Creator endures forever. This has been an unabridged audio production of Before the Flood, The Fall of Atlantis, Interlude 1, The Covenant of the Runt, by Matson. All rights reserved by Matson, LLC. Copyright Matson, LLC 2026. If you enjoyed this production, please like, share, and subscribe. Available on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Follow the author at Matson for updates. Links in the description.